Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Yesterday we had an insane first day of free agency in the NHL 2022-2023 season, so I thought we'd break it all down and go over the biggest contracts doled out yesterday. I feel like we should probably start though with some of the trades because there was two in particular that were pretty massive. First, we'll start with the one involving my Sharks, where Brent Burns, the franchise best defenseman, was moved to the Carolina Hurricanes for Steven Lorentz, Eetu Makiniemi, and a conditional third-round pick. The Sharks will retain 30% of Brent Burns' salary. Now, from a Sharks fan's perspective, I love this. I didn't think the Sharks would be able to get anything for Burns' contract. He does have a little bit of value among all of the players that have insane contracts, like Carlson or Marc-Edouard Vlasic specifically. He at least has some value still because he played an absolute insane amount of minutes, and he had over 40 points last year. That being said, the days of him having to do first line minutes are far over, and in San Jose, that's really what he was. So Mike Grier comes in as a first-time GM and the first season as the Sharks, and he says, let's clear the decks. Completely okay with it, love it. They got an actual decent goalie prospect. More importantly, they save over $5 million against the cap for the next 3 years. So like I said, I love this trade. For Carolina, I think it's also perfect. I mean, Brent Burns at that contract over $5 million is still going to be pretty rough, probably starting this season. However, Brent Burns on a second line, maybe even a third if they don't have to play him first line minutes. We'll have to wait and see. That'll be interesting because I think that he is still a very, very good defenseman. It's sad to see him go, but he's going to get a shot at a cup with a very, very good team. Then Carolina followed that up with one of the best moves of the entire day, and that was them acquiring Max Pacioretty and Dylan Collin for future considerations for the Vegas Golden Knights in a clear cap dump. I've got to say, obviously, I'm not a big fan of the Golden Knights as a Sharks fan. Great rivalry, but man, ever since that first season, every year they have made brutal decisions, it appears, as this have gone along. They don't seem to have any player loyalty. They are chasing a cup after one of the most generational sports moments ever, with an expansion team going to almost winning a championship, and I think that it's just caught up to them. Now they're going to get a full season of Jack Eichel, hopefully, and Mark Stone. They still have William Karlsson, Marchessault, Riley, and Chandler Stevenson has actually become a really, really good value player for them. But nonetheless, all of the important pieces, every year they just seem to just trade out guys that matter to them because, well, I guess in the end they don't matter. But Carolina getting Max Pacioretty for essentially free, unbelievable move. Great job by them. All right, now on to the signings. All right, so the one, obviously the biggest one, Johnny Gaudreau. It looked like all day long it was either Philly, the Islanders, or the New Jersey Devils. Now, he is from South Jersey, which is basically Philadelphia. Philadelphia was his favorite team growing up as a kid. He wanted to move home, be closer to his family, which you can kind of understand as an actual human being, playing out in Calgary for 8 years, where, traveling, that far to get your family to come out and watch games for you and see you, probably not all that advantageous when you are having the best season of your career, probably the best season he's ever going to have, and it happened to be in his free agent year, so he's collecting the bag. That being said, there's a lot of winners and losers here. One, Philadelphia, I understand why they didn't go for Gaudreau, but I think that the other signings they made just did not seem... Chuck Fletcher, Flyers fans, I apologize. From the outside perspective, I'm not a big Flyers fan, but man, some of the moves he has made are just questionable. And it looked like Johnny Gaudreau wanted to be a Flyer, but nonetheless, they weren't able to clear any cap, nor did they have any intention to, which I think might be the more surprising part. So they weren't in the mix. And the Islanders and the Devils, it looked like all day that the Devils were going to be the team. He is from New Jersey. They have a ton of cap space. They need forwards. They need pretty much everything, and an elite forward would really go a long way. And I'm not going to lie, I'm not a big Devils fan. Shout out to NJ Devil. I like NJ Devil, but I don't watch a lot of Devils games. But with Jack Hughes and Johnny Gaudreau, that'd be pretty electric. But he said no. Instead, out of nowhere, he goes and signs with the Columbus Blue Jackets for $9.75 per year for the next 7 years, which is crazy when you think about it, because obviously at the end of that contract, he's not going to get any deal that's worth even close to that. Calgary offered an extra year at 10.2, so he essentially left like $13 million on the table to go play closer to home, and it was with the Columbus Blue Jackets. So shout out to Nasher and Singer, as the Columbus Blue Jackets did get a lot better, but we need to talk about Columbus a little bit because they also made one of probably the worst move of the entire day. Next, Claude Giroux. I'm not gonna lie, when a team rebuilds correctly, they're bad for a while. They get a bunch of top-end picks. They're good picks. They make the correct signings and some shrewd trades. It's fun to watch. It's like playing real-life GM mode. The Ottawa Senators are a wagon this year. They're probably not going to make the playoffs. I think they are a team where you see it every season in all sports, where they make a ton of moves and They all look good on paper, but it takes a little while for them to gel, and I think that their prospects, some of them are still about a year away. But nonetheless, Claude Giroux signing for 6.5 to go home to play in Ottawa. That's just awesome to see. Ottawa is going to be really fun, especially with DeBrincat now. You've got another year Stützle. You've got Shabbat. The one player I would love to see Ottawa go and get would be Klingberg. Imagine Klingberg and Shabbat playing together. It just would be really fun, and Klingberg is still on the market. Now, as it stands, Ottawa's got $20 million in cap space right now, but they're going to have to sign Josh Norris, and he's probably going to get at least $5 million, maybe more. It depends if he does a bridge deal, but he is still an RFA at 23 years old, and they're going to have to re-sign Eric Brandstrom. That'll probably be much cheaper, but nonetheless, that's still going to be kind of expensive there for them. But they have a ton of cap space available still, and you might see some other moves, but I'd love to see Klingberg as a Senator because I just think that it would fit really well, and they'd be a lot closer to the playoffs next year if he were to sign there. Now, following the Johnny Gaudreau news, we had Andre Palat. Now, this was New Jersey's panic contingency plan. $6 million for Andre Palat at 31 years of age for 5 years. This contract screams regret in like 2 or 3. This is a complimentary player making borderline first-line money, very close at $6 million per. You see this every offseason. And again, obviously not having Johnny Gaudreau, their forward core, Sharon Govich and Bratt, who's got to re-sign as well. It's going to be very expensive for him, who low-key, 102 points in his last 122 games. If you're not a Devils fan, you probably missed out on a lot of that. He has done phenomenal, and that's a really, really good draft pick by them. But nonetheless, they still have Hughes and Heischer. Their defense core is still much to be desired. Hamilton is going to be very good, obviously, if he can stay healthy, and then Nemec will help, but he's probably a year or two away before like regular duty in the NHL, or at least good play in the NHL. But Andre Palat, that contract is going to be probably one they regret in a little bit, but they had to do something after waiting on Johnny Gaudreau all day. That's tough. It happens, though. The Rangers go out and get Vinnie Trojek from Carolina for $5.6 to $5 million per. I've always loved Vinnie Trojek back in his Florida days. This is a Ryan Strome replacement. He's a very, very good forechecker. He's fun to watch. And at $5.625 for a 29-year-old, that's not awful, but it is 7 years. And when you consider that Trojek and Gaudreau both signed for the next 5 years, costing like $10 million per, that's a little tough, especially with the Rangers, because they are a cap team and they're going to have to sign Lafreniere. They've got to sign Kakko this year. That should be pretty cheap. But their contracts are going to start hitting up against them, and that's one that, well, the Gaudreau one is going to go first. Great playoff performers, obviously, but nonetheless, the 7 years at that is a little tough, but you had to give him time to get him to sign. And there you go, Vinnie Trojek, good signing. The next big one by Detroit, who made a million moves, is getting Andrew Kopp for 5 years at $5.625 million per. A decent signing. I think Kopp had his best season, and I doubt he replicates, but a good player for Detroit who is just lacking at all positions. Yzerman has done a phenomenal job not giving out long-term contracts for the most part, and he signed a ton of players that I think are going to either be moved for picks or prospects probably this year. Detroit's still a year or two away, maybe even 3, but once some of their prospects start hitting, if Edvinsson is anything like Seider, that's going to be unbelievable. They got Raymond, Casper this year. They're really fun to watch, and you can't ever doubt Yzerman. He's incredible. He wins almost every deal he makes, and I'm still kind of surprised at $5 million, but they had so much cap space that, getting a really, really good, complimentary piece player is important. Andre Burakovsky, 5 years, $5.5 million to Seattle. I'm not going to lie. I think Seattle needs to sign players like this, but I really like Seattle with the potential of them just running out what they've got. They signed Shane Wright to his ELC. We'll see if he plays. Matty Beniers is going to have a full season. I would love for them to get Bedard. I think that there is a lot of teams, more teams ever, you are going to see tank for a player almost to the same level as Arizona and Buffalo did for McDavid, which obviously didn't work out, but that was so evident. Chicago is going through it right now. It's just Seattle has a real shot, and obviously they have to hit the cap floor. Burakovsky is for 5.5 for 5 years is probably not that much of a risk at all, because no matter what, they don't have enough players coming up where their contracts are going to explode because they're rookies. Matty Beniers got 2 more years on his ELC. Actually, I think 3. So you're fine there, and it's a good sign. I think Burakovsky is a good fit for them. Darcy Kemper, 5.25 to the Washington Capitals to replace their entire goaltending core. Obviously, they had Vitek Vanacek, who moved to New Jersey, and then they didn't elect to re-sign Ilya Samsonov. So their former first-round pick, he's gone, goes to Toronto, and a nice move for Toronto, I think, at 1.8 million. But still, I can't wait to see Toronto's goaltender. Like Matt Murray and him, man. We're going to talk about Campbell in a second, but like, I don't know how confident you can be. Nonetheless, Darcy Kemper at 5.25, obviously Stanley Cup champion, very, very talented goaltender. Is he going to play up to 5.25 million? Probably not on a team like Washington because they are on the downswing. He's not playing behind, the powerhouse in Colorado, but this was pretty evident that it needed to happen because if they didn't sign him, it would have been pretty ugly. Ryan Strome goes to the Anaheim Ducks for $5 million for 5 years. No, I've always liked Ryan Strome, even though he can't hit an empty net. Anaheim is devoid of roster players. They've got a really good prospect pool, but they need bodies that can actually help these prospects play. So Strome is a good pickup for them, in my opinion. Jack Campbell, $5 million to the Edmonton Oilers last year. I made a joke on Twitter about, man, if Edmonton just had Jack Campbell, they would have stood a much better chance against Colorado. Not that I think Jack Campbell is a great goalie. I don't. Leafs fans, relax. But what I'm saying is that I don't think Edmonton needs a top 5 goalie in the league. I think they just need someone to not cost them games like Mike Smith did. He did a great job in a few of them, but they literally had losses in the first round due to Mike Smith. Like, that's it. And, that can wear on a team, and it's tough. You saw it with McDavid. He was just like, we need a save. Jack Campbell's a better goalie than they've had in the last long time, and we'll see if Jack Campbell gets out of the first round. Maybe he goes on a bit of a run. I think Edmonton, low-key, I think that they are probably going to win the Pacific Division, and I think it won't be that close. Again, you have McDavid and Draisaitl, you're going to win 40 games no matter what. But all said and done, I think that this is a really good signing for Edmonton. All right, here's a couple of moves that were just tough because you know that they are not going to return the value. Ben Sherratt, after his Montreal Canadian Cup run, his stock went through the roof because of how he played in that Cup run. He struggled a little bit last season with the minutes trying to be a number 1 defenseman. Then went to Florida, and it didn't work out all that well. Detroit signed him for 4 years at 4.75. Again, I think that it's a few years before Detroit actually contends, so this deal is probably going to end before that, or maybe just when that's up. And he's 32 going into next year. I think this one is a little questionable, but again, you have to trust Yzerman. Ilya Mikheyev, the next cast-off from Toronto because of the Big Four. He gets a huge payday, $4.75 million to Vancouver. This screamed like he was produced because of the team, and that $5 million probably could have been used elsewhere. The Canucks are going to be in a really weird cap situation. I think that you're going to see that OEL contract. I remember when the trade broke last summer that thing is going to be a mess very shortly, and I think you're going to start seeing it. Ilya Mikheyev's $5 million is going to make that happen a little bit quicker. David Perron doesn't go back to the Blues. He goes to Detroit for 4.75. David Perron is the most annoying player as if you're watching, him play against your team. He always just is a hard player to play against. It looks like he's a great goal scorer, and in the playoffs he was money. He shoots a ton. I think it's a great pickup from Detroit. It's only 2 years. They'll probably move him. They'll probably move him at the deadline for something. This is like written on the wall. It probably goes back to St. Louis. Mason Marchment also cashes in the bag, $4.5 million from Florida to Dallas. Just is kind of like a Dallas player. Like, very hard-nosed. I kind of wanted him on the Sharks, but at 4.5, that's a little tough. However, he's only 27. That's expensive, but he does bring a lot of grit and a decent scoring touch, so okay. All right, and then easily the worst deal of the day, in my opinion. Okay, Columbus goes out and gets Gaudreau. Looks like big winners, and they are. They got the best player in free agency, under 10 mil, 100-point player. But the Eric Goodbranson, $4 million for 4 years is just staggering. This is his 5th team in 3 seasons. Like, it's, hard, like, big defenseman, but 4 years at $4 million, that just reeks of a buyout, or just you have to sit them there. But tough. I mean, thank God they got Gaudreau because they definitely turned it around there. But yeah, man, I don't know. They need to get to the cap floor, I guess. I mean, they have a lot of young players. I don't know. I have no idea. So, guys, let me know your takes on the free agency, how your team went. Again, if you disagree with my opinions, I apologize, my man. I love a good debate, and I'm excited to see what you guys think of the first day of free agency. If you guys haven't, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.